Casual Sports Guys, episode 58. If you're here for the free t-shirt, we can work something out. It will have to be a Canucks shirt, though, so I'm sure nobody else in Canada will want it. Kolby, Solinsky here, and I'll just cut to it. But first, our show today brought to you by the Canadian Passport. If you're an American and you want to have fun traveling, you need one, the Canadian Passport. This is a bit of an emergency podcast. We have other topics to get to in coming days. There's too much to choose from if we want to actually hit it. But this is becoming more of a news magazine in a sense. We've got Europe's 15 best teams and then Poland going at it at the Euros in 2 weeks. Derek Jeter, the greatest player in Yankee history besides Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, and Mantle. He's back, or he's on fire. Sportsnet magazine devoting a whole cover to the man. So Jeter's back. Just like, supposedly, the other guy, Tiger Woods. We can't stop talking about even when he's not really a conversation point. But tonight, you know it, Stanley Cup final, Devils beating the Kings 3-1. 3-1 also the score in the series. Parade route on hold temporarily. In that great hockey hotbed of Southern California, where we might have two Stanley Cup champions since 2007. How sad is that? Because, you know, but at least now the U.S. can get more viewers in Game 5. You know, the 4 that they had tonight might go up to 5 or 6 for Game 5. You never know. How about that, by the way, for Gary Bettman? You go from having Rangers-Kings possibility to Devils-Kings, maybe the most watched final series of all time in the U.S. When you consider the New York and Los Angeles as a part of it, you go from that to this, which is essentially irrelevant. And yeah, LA's into it, but you've sliced it more than in half, to say the least. The Kings will have to wait a little bit longer to hoist their first cup in franchise history, but you know what? That's perfect. It really is. It's better this way. They've been great this whole playoff run. Some would even say fantastic, but they deserve to lose one. I'll say it. They deserve to lose at least one in this series. This is only their third overall. They're now 15-3. But without Jonathan Quick, this team would have been out in round 1. And that's not, I'm not trying to take away from their cup crawl, because they have Jonathan Quick. It reminds me of during the Olympics when they would say, oh, the States wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Ryan Miller. They have Ryan Miller. How is that even a point of conversation? They're there. He's part of the team. I mean, the Oilers wouldn't have won all those things that easily without Gretzky. Your best player is your best player. Jonathan Quick is their best player. And you need a goalie to win the cup. We know this. But I mean, Drew Doughty, Richards, Carter, Brown, Penner, Williams, they've all been very good as a unit. And they're a fantastic team. And they've clicked at the right moment. At the point that I was about to say, if they won tonight and swept this series, you could almost hear everybody else in the West going, all right, that's great. Now how do we beat you going forward? Because you really just figured us all out. How do we even come back from this? Together, they form a very good 20-win machine. But they've been on in spurts, off in spurts, those individual players. I know what everyone's saying about Drew Doughty, but he's not as great as people think he is. He's great, but he's not or great. And believe it or not, they're talking or. They're talking Niedermeyer coffee. He's not there yet. Richards is kind of like Bobby Clark, but again, not really. Penner and Carter for large parts of this playoff have been slugs. Dustin Brown has been very, very good, but again, he's slowed down a lot in these finals. Williams has been terrific, but he's not the make-or-break guy. The Devils, for their matter, should have won at least one of those first 2 games. And I don't mean that, again, this is so hard to actually analyze a series and try to sound like you're not taking it away from Los Angeles. I'm really not trying to. But the Devils, you know, I don't think we realize that this is how the Kings win stuff. You fall asleep. They're like Ka from Jungle Book. They sing to you, they hiss, and all of a sudden your great offense just dries up. The other teams in this playoff, they haven't realized that they've been in this series, in any of their series, until Game 4. And by that point, they're already down 3-0. It's how every series has started. It's probably just far too late for New Jersey at this point. No matter what they do, They lost their first 3. And when you lose your first 2 in overtime, I mean, you're behind the 8 ball right away. You have no say what happens the rest of the way. You have to win 4 of your next 5 games. And let's be honest, these players say 1 game at a time. That's what they have to say. That's what they want to believe. But it gets to them. It has to. They're human. It happens. You can't blame them. For some reason with Jersey, after Game 3, you could see their fear. See their depression. See Parise and Kovalchuk just know that, yeah, we got to take it 1 game at a time, but how hard is that? Especially against a club like Los Angeles that wants it and has wanted it for the last 2 months. This is so eerily close to the Canucks series in round 1. Right down to the score in Game 4, 3-1 in both. Do you remember that series? Do you remember that? The Canucks trying and trying and trying, not getting through the neutral zone. They get power plays, they get shots, I guess, but they're worked to the outside. They push, they can't get anything through. A couple nice goals, and that's it. The Kings score shorthanded goals, they score timely goals, they play physical when it counts. They get outplayed for almost 60 minutes, and they somehow win 4 or 5. And is that any different than right now? Because I don't see it. And again, like the Canucks with Luongo and Schneider, you cannot blame Martin Brodeur for this one. This series is not on him. It's probably on Parise and Kovalchuk. At the same time, they're visible out there. They're not dead. They're still firing pucks. Kovalchuk has been very active. I don't know what people are talking about, saying that he hasn't done what he can do. He's been very active. He's shooting. And for some reason, the Kings and their Charlie Brown-faced genius, Daryl Sutter, they have this ability to play for 60 minutes every time. They seem to know it's their game of chess. They don't sweat losing pawns right away. They somehow have it figured out. They know how to play 60-minute hockey. I don't know the reason for it. They've just clicked. When someone falls, another soldier grabs their gun and keeps going. The Kings have also been able to wade their way through what has been, with all due respect to those Foot Locker employees who put in a full 60 every night, perhaps the worst refereed playoffs in recent years. Last year's was bad too. That was very bad. But think about this. Not only does Brendan Shanahan have no idea how to handle star players like Shea Weber and Duncan Keith, and not only did he give in to the scapegoat mania that was the Rafi Torres 25 games for a shoulder hit play, but you saw it tonight on LA's only goal. If you're watching, it was 3-1 the final. They tied it up. They made it 1-1 at one point. A point shot from Drew Doughty on the power play. The penalty, Dustin Brown gets a love tap from David Clarkson. You know, he goes in face first to the boards, but he's standing up all the way. Brown looked like he barely even felt it. And I'm not sure if there was a shoulder that hit Brown's back or if Clarkson's slight angle of his body wasn't to the Zebra's liking. But honestly, after all the hits that Dustin Brown has delivered in these playoffs, the shoulder to the head of Henrik Sedin, the knee-on-knee to Michael Roosevelt, neither went punished. He wasn't penalized for either play, and that was okay with me, by the way. I don't think that those ones deserve to be penalties or deserve suspensions. I don't think that. But for Dustin Brown to play as reckless as he always does, let's face it, the guy doesn't exactly show a lot of respect physically for other guys. To see that penalty called tonight, it's been a joke. And the NHL should be embarrassed for how these playoffs have gone these last 2 years. These guys have lost control of every game. You can list off easily the number of times goals have been allowed that shouldn't have been. Crucial ones, too. Not like, some second period power play in Game 2 of a series. Joe Ward, Tim Thomas in round 1. Overtime goal wins the series in Game 7. The Senators on Henrik Lundqvist in round 1. The Kings on Martin Brodeur, Game 3 of the Cup Finals. That goal, you could ultimately look back and say that cost the Devils in a huge way part of this series. And you know what? It's been so bad. They look like they don't know what they're doing out there. And it's affecting the Cup Finals. How do you not see it? And for the NHL to just have this blind eye to it all. They don't have any ability to look inward on themselves and take responsibility for it. They don't have any knack of calling themselves out. And when you don't have the balls to own a mirror, and when it's killing teams at this stage in the game, when you work 82 games for playoff seeding, and then you get dogged by not just bad calls. I'm not talking about human errors. I'm talking about inconsistency all across the board. through all of these guys. When it happens there, I mean, you have a serious problem. And it's been an embarrassment. They have to fix it. And they got to do it themselves, because that's the only way to do this. Anyway, for the sake of the game, let's hope Jersey extends this series a little longer. After all, these playoffs have been, I gotta say it again, so bad, so irrelevant. Maybe we just deserve a good final. On the other hand, maybe they should just end as soon as possible. Put us out of our misery so we can all focus on the NBA. It's been better anyway. This has been the Casual Sportscast, episode 56. Kolby Solinsky saying until next time, keep it casual.